Alright, Star Trek V was really hard to talk about, so now we're talking about a good movie. Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, has our Enterprise crew back in the fold for their last adventure. This was the last film to feature the entire original series cast in one movie. They would later make appearances in other movies, but we'll get to that later. Now, there are times where we can see the actors are getting a little older and they can't do as many things as they could when they were younger sort of people, when they were doing the first couple of films, or even when they were doing the original series, but that doesn't really stop them. They still really try hard to make sure that they leave a lasting impression. And that is exactly what Star Trek tries to do. It makes sure that you understand who these characters are, finally, as they go. The film takes the fall of the Soviet Union, which was a big political issue around about the time of the writing and production of this film, and uses the fall of the Soviet Union as a political backboard on which to jettison the film's events. The Klingon Empire is pretty much no more. They have no resources left because their moon practice has exploded in this amazing opening sequence, which actually set the ground for many visual effects for years to come. ILM poured so much time and effort and intricate detail into this massive explosion effect that ended up being this big thing that many films would do afterwards. It's called the Praxis effect, that massive wave from an explosion. That visual effects shot comes from Star Trek VI. And Praxis explodes, which completely bankrupts the entire Empire, and they say, screw it, we're done with this war thing that we've got going in the Federation, we're going to make peace. All this sort of stuff is just not going to help our people move forward into the next century. So to commit to these peace talks is the Enterprise crew, a lot of which don't necessarily agree with this sort of idea. They've lived their entire lives always kind of hating Klingons in some way. Very much like how the Americans were raised to believe that the Soviets were the worst people in the entire world. The Enterprise crew sits down to dinner with these Klingons. It's a little awkward. We get our first look at the amazing villain, General Chang, played by Christopher Plummer. Yeah, Captain Von Trapp from The Sound of Music plays a Klingon, and he is awesome. And it's also a little ironic that in the last Star Trek film of the original series, we have a cast member from The Sound of Music, and in the first film in this Star Trek film series, it was directed by the director of The Sound of Music. Nice little loop you got going there. Kirk still hates Klingons because they killed his son in Star Trek 3. He makes sure that that kind of resides within himself. He tries to be professional, but oh no, something bad happens. The Klingon leader is murdered and nobody knows why. Kirk and McCoy are accused of that and sent to a Klingon prison, while the Enterprise crew tries to do this kind of like Agatha Christie murder mystery sort of thing. And it's great. I love the story of trying to find out who really killed the Klingon leader, Gorkon. There's little tiny moments where they're thinking that this person is going to be the culprit, but no.
If shoe fits, wear it.
Mr. Chekhov.
I loved how this movie was half the murder mystery, which, like I said, had a lot of humor behind it, had a bit of drama as the twist unfolds, as you find out who it really was, and it's a deeply affecting thing, especially for Spock. But you also have, on the other half of it, this political, social commentary about the idea of peace between Klingons and the humans. And at the end, there's this great speech that Kirk gives towards the entire Federation with Klingons and Romulans in present. And he just basically says, this is what we should be doing. We should be having peace. War is not the answer. And it's fantastic. I love that. There are a few times where it's a little silly for Kirk, for William Shatner, who was getting a little bit on at this point, and also DeVoris Kelly. You can tell that they're really old, especially when Kirk and McCoy are on the Klingon prison planet. And Shatner is still trying to be that action hero that he thinks he can be, but no. Just no. Those scenes, they do drag on a bit. They slow the movie down almost to a halt. I always like kind of turn my brain off a bit. I just want to get to the real crux of the movie, which is the conflict between Kirk and General Chang. I love General Chang mainly because all he does is just quote Shakespeare.
To be or not to be? That is the question which preoccupies our people, Captain Kirk.
Pretty much everything he says in this final battle is just Shakespeare quotes.
Tickle us, do we not laugh? Prick us, do we not bleed? Wrong us, shall we not revenge? Our revels now are ended, Kirk. Cry havoc! And let's slip the dogs of war. I am constant as the northern star.
I'd give real money if he'd shut up.
And it's fantastic. And the final battle itself is great. It's probably one of the best action sequences out of this entire Star Trek franchise. It's up there with the battle between the Enterprise and the Reliant from Star Trek II, some of the battles from First Contact, some of the battles from the new J.J. Abrams movies. We'll get to that. But the end battle from Star Trek VI is awesome because not only do you have the Enterprise versus General Chang's ship, but you also have Captain Sulu and the USS Excelsior flying in to assist the Enterprise, and it's great. It's real fist-pumping stuff. And also, like, kind of understated, but really cool, is that Sulu is now captain. I love that. When I see that, I think, that is so great. Why didn't they do that earlier? Takei wanted to happen in Star Trek V, but Shatner said, no, you're going to be brainwashed and stuff. So maybe one of those things that kind of fueled into their little feud that they still have going. That end battle is great. The real ending of the movie is the highlight for me. Out of everything that happens in this movie, it flows rather well. The story is great, the characters are great, the action, the music, the editing, the cinematography are all on point. But the real thing that makes me love Star Trek VI, and not just merely like it a lot, the thing that makes me love it is the very ending of the movie. With Kirk and the entire Enterprise crew sitting down, they've been ordered to go to space dock. Spock says,
If I were human, I believe my response would be, go to hell.
and they ask Kirk, what's your heading? He says,
Second star to the right. And straight on till morning.
oh, well, we're not done yet. That moment, it lifts you up. And then the final, last seconds of the movie, we have the stars before us. And we have each of the original cast's signatures written in blue writing in the stars. Walter Koenig, Nichelle Nichols, George Takei, James Doohan, DeForest Kelley, Leonard Nimoy, and William Shatner. And to 3 members of that cast, they belong in the stars. Leonard Nimoy, James Doohan, and DeForest Kelley, they are immortal. And that's what I really love about Star Trek VI. It said goodbye to this cast in the best possible way. And still to this day, I have to say that Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, is well worth the ticket and the Blu-ray. Sorry to get a little somber, I kind of tear up every single time I see that ending. So, Star Trek VI, have you seen it? Please tell me what you think about it. Next we have Star Trek Generations, the new cast that they brought in. It's gonna be good. Yay! Thank you for watching.